Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. This is Shyam Kaggod here, bringing you the Hindu news analysis for the date 30th April 2025. In today's session, we have a very comprehensive discussion. I've taken a total of 10 articles. Nine of them are from the Hindu newspaper Daily Edition, and one article from the Indian Express. This has been done in order to ensure that discussion will be comprehensive and questions asked in the civil services examination, either prelims or mains, can be easily answered by all of you. If you like this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. And if you yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Before I start the discussion, I just want to make a very important announcement. Very recently, we conducted the Manzil event. During this, I had a chance to interact with multiple toppers who claimed success in the Civil Services Examination 2024. They essentially followed the very important principles to clear the civil services, such as covering the static portion, updating the current affairs, solving the previous year question papers, solving multiple test papers, and revising. All of this is available to you if you subscribe to our courses at a price of 17,999. And if you use the code IAS English, you'll also get an extension of 12 months free of cost. In a nutshell, you pay for 12, you get 24 months subscription for your courses. I have been told that the offer is going to end today. Those who are interested, check out the details by clicking on the link provided in the description below. Now, let me start the discussion. The first article, editorial page, growth pangs. What are the important points here? Point number one, those who are wondering as well as wandering outside, you will be wondering whether you should remember this particular table. Answer to that question is absolutely no. Do not waste your time. Important points are these. Point number one, there is an indicator called as Index of Industrial Production, IIP, Index of Industrial Production. What does the IIP essentially measure? Please understand, Index of Industrial Production measures changes in the volume of production. What is the change in the volume of production? It will measure that, and month on month basis, that is every month, the data is published. Who will publish this data? This is published by MOSPI, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. The importance of this particular data is to basically find out what is happening in terms of production of goods in the domestic market. We measure the IIP by looking at three very important areas. One is mining industry or mining sector. Second one is the manufacturing, and the third one is the electricity. Please remember, third one is the electricity. So these are the three very important areas which are tracked. And in these particular three areas, what has happened to the production volumes? Has it increased? Has it decreased compared to the same time period in the previous year? That is published every month. And all the three do not have same kind of a importance. Please understand, there is a term called as a weightage. And some of you might be thinking, sir, what is the importance of a weightage? Why do we need to provide weightage? Reason is simple. All the three are not equally important. All the three will not have the same impact on the overall growth in the economy. That is the reason out of all the three, manufacturing is given the highest weightage, around 77%. Mining is given the second highest weightage, around 14%. And electricity is given the weightage of around 8%. And I know some of you will be using your calculator now, essentially calculating and saying, sir, 14 plus 77 plus 8% doesn't make 100%. You're wrong. You're basically doing CSAT wrong, etc. Please understand, I'm saying these are approximate numbers or around numbers. There are decimal numbers. These are decimals. You don't worry. All the three put together will essentially give you 100%. But please understand what is there in the newspaper. Why should you study about index of industrial production? The newspaper article simply says there is a problem associated with the production in the Indian economy. That is, for the financial year 24, index of industrial production for the full year, mind you, for the full year, had grown or had shown a growth of around 5.9%. Whereas for the financial year 25, it is growing around 4%. It is showing a growth of around 4%, which means compared to last financial year, that is in the financial year 25, you are experiencing a growth in the volume of production of around 4%. Some of you might be saying, yes, sir, there is growth. There is increased production. But what is the concern here? Concern is very simple. If you break down this particular number in terms of, let's say, the components of IIP, you'll observe that the mining sector is growing at a much lower pace, almost half of what was the growth in the previous, or almost a third of what was the growth in the previous fiscal. Manufacturing, it is lesser than what it was growing in the previous financial year. And the electricity sector is also growing at a lesser percentage compared to the previous financial year. What is the outcome? What is the inference you need to make out of all of this? If the growth doesn't increase at a faster pace, if the overall production doesn't increase at a faster pace compared to, let's say, previous year, or right average of last 2 years, etc., it simply means there is some systemic problem. There is certain fundamentally something wrong with the Indian economy. Why are we not producing more then? Question is very simple. Why are we not producing more? Why are we not exporting more? Why are we not selling more? Is it not a very important question for you to ask when you look at these kind of trends regarding IIP? The reason behind this kind of a growth in IIP is said to be one, the uncertainties. I'll write here. What are the reasons? What are the causes? The uncertainties as well as the volatilities that are present in the global market now. I will simply call this as a Trump factor. I'll call this as a Trump factor. Because of the policies of the president of USA, there is a lot of uncertainty in the global market, lot of volatility in the global market. And will this have an impact on the Indian market? Yes. The exports from the Indian market have shown a muted growth. Exports have shown a muted essentially means there is largely there is any perceptible change. There is no perceptible change in terms of exports that we are doing in this year compared to last financial year. So exports have shown a muted growth. And mind you, if exports do not grow at a very faster pace, doesn't increase at a faster pace, it will have a huge impact on the industries in India, especially MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises. MSMEs. And MSMEs play a very important role for a simple reason. Around 45% of the exports come from the MSMEs. Lot of jobs are present in the MSMEs. They contribute to the GDP of India, etc. So if there is a pressure on the export, it will translate to MSMEs, and the MSMEs account for a very large chunk of economic activity. They will also be affected. Second reason is, what about the consumption? What about the consumption? And please understand, whenever you talk about consumption, you can talk about this in the form of rural and urban consumption. You can talk in the context of consumer durables as well as consumer non durables. And I know some of you will be talking, or some of you will be thinking, sir, what do you mean by consumer durables and consumer non durables? If you purchase a packet of biscuit, if you purchase a packet of bread, if you purchase a packet of, let's say, cold drink or a bottle of cold drink, you'll consume it very quickly. Maybe you will wait for 1 day, 2 day, and some of you might be consuming this right now as you're listening to the session. These are consumer durables, right? These are consumer non-durables. That is, you will essentially consume it at a very faster pace. You will not store it for a longer duration. On the other side, you purchase a car, you purchase an AC, you purchase a washing machine. These are durables in nature. These will be used for a very longer duration. And what is the importance of all of this? The importance is the consumption has been affected in the domestic market. The consumption has been affected, especially the rural consumption. Especially the rural consumption has been affected because of multiple reasons. For example, if inflation, if inflation rate is very high, don't you think that will have an impact on the kind of goods and services, the number of goods and services that you will be consuming? If inflation rate is very high, the amount of disposable income in the hands of the consumers, the purchasing power of it will be lesser. The rural households have not been able to generate sufficient amount of income. That will have a higher impact on the consumption patterns. So the second reason why IIP is not registering a higher growth is because of the consumption. And the third reason is the private sector investment. Private sector investment. And why is this important? Please understand this very carefully. The private sector, unlike government of India, will basically look at what is the demand for the goods and services, and based on that, they will invest. All of you able to understand this? Very simple logic. The private sector are not in the market for charity purposes. They're in the market because they want to invest and generate more profits. And that is the precise reason when the demand for the consumer goods and, right, let's say other types of goods is not growing very fast, when there is a rising uncertainty in the global market, why do you think private sector will take a risk by investing more and more money? They will not take that risk. They will control their investment. And what is the impact of all of this? Let me add a current affairs point here. Very recently, Reserve Bank of India, that is through monetary policy, Reserve Bank of India reduced interest rates. All of you are following this? The Reserve Bank of India, through the monetary policy, reduced interest rates. And what was the logic of it? They wanted the interest rates in the market to come down, loans to become cheaper, more and more consumers will take loans, more companies will take loans, investment will kickstart, or investments will increase, create employment opportunities, create demand for the goods and services, and this will essentially contribute to higher GDP growth rate. But now look at all of this. Despite RBI reducing interest rates, IIP is not growing very fast. IIP is not registering a higher growth rate. What does it simply mean? It simply means the impact of this policy of Reserve Bank of India has not been very effective. The policy has not been very effective in terms of driving growth in the economy. Now you'll have to wait and see in the coming days what kind of more policies will be undertaken by the government of India as well as the Reserve Bank of India in order to boost production, in order to promote more and more production, the Indian economy. And one way the government of India can ensure confidence will return to the market, more production will be kick-started, more investment will be kick-started, essentially is the bilateral trade agreement, BTA. Because mind you, one of the biggest factors that is holding back investment, that is holding back confidence in the Indian market is uncertainty in the global market. And if government of India can sign an agreement with USA, which will guarantee certain tariff or which will guarantee certain flow of the trade, this will essentially prove to be, right, a very important outcome or a very, let's say, good outcome for the Indian economy in terms of investment by the private sector. Done? So these are the important points which have been mentioned in this article related to IIP and the connection to the GDP. Now, associated with this, I've given an MCQ, MCQ 100. Consider the following statements regarding IIP and GDP. Index of Industrial Production, and Gross Domestic Product. Both are published by MOSPI. Both have the same base year 2011 and 12. How many of these two statements are correct? Do let me know in the chat section. If not, don't worry. I'll give you the key answer at the end of the session. Next article. One more article in the central page. A powerful judicial remedy for waste management. Now, what are the important points that you need to understand? Listen to me carefully now. Government of India is implementing multiple policies along with the state government essentially to address the issue of waste management in India. Correct? Issue of waste management in India. Article is related to ecology and environment. Please be careful. But the issue related to waste management is discussed in this article. One very important issue raised is related to the plastic waste. Related to the plastic waste. As per the recent estimates which have been provided by multiple sources and also through a survey, India is the largest pollutant. India is the largest pollutant of plastic. Remember this. Right? Largest pollutant of plastic. And here is, right, let's say a tricky question for all of you. After India, or let's say along with India, can you please name, right, let's say the top three countries in terms of plastic waste contribution to the global market? Who are the top three plastic polluters to the global market? Please do let me know. And I know a lot of you will go with our best friend, again, in a funnier way, China. And I know a lot of you will go with USA. But you will be wrong. You will be wrong in that particular context. Do let me know who are the remaining two along with India in the top three polluters in terms of plastic. Again, in terms of plastic, not the total pollution, not the total emission, only plastic. Okay, let me go forward. Now, what is the issue here? The writer simply says, although there is a number, there is a particular number, the number simply says, India, according to the latest study published, is the largest pollutant of the plastic, essentially releasing 9.3 million tons annually. Into the nature, we release 9.3 million tons of plastic annually. But the argument of, right, the writer is, this will be an underestimation. This will be an underestimation. Why? Listen to me carefully now. How do we arrive at how much is the plastic pollution that is contributed by India? We estimate. Correct? We collect the data and we provide estimates. But how do we collect the data? The data is published by Central Pollution Control Board, CPCB. And the CPCB will collect this particular data from the State Pollution Control Boards, SPCB. And SPCB in turn will collect this particular data from the municipalities. Simple. Is it okay? They will collect the data from municipalities. But there are various issues regarding this methodology of data collection. What are the issues? One, is there any specific methodology that is followed by these agencies and is it published in India? Right, let's say CPCB or right, let's say even SPCB, are they publishing, right, let's say how they are collecting data? What is the methodology followed by them? Are they publishing this data? Is it available for you as well as me and other stakeholders to have a look at? No. There is no specific, right, data which is published regarding what is the methodology followed by them. Right, that is the first problem. And this is important. Reason being, as long as you don't know what is the methodology followed by these agencies to collect data and publish data, how will you find out whether this data is correct or not? Whether the data is accurate or not? And you need to have argument in favor of, let's say, legitimacy of the data, accuracy of the data. Reason being, you need to make policies, correct? You need to formulate policies. On what basis do you formulate your policies? Based on the data collected. And if the data collection methodology is not transparent, is not accurate enough, what will you do in terms of making policies? That is the first issue. Second issue is, A lot of this plastic waste, a lot of this plastic waste is not even collected. It is not even collected. For example, many of the times you must have seen in your own localities, or somebody will say, no, sir, my locality is very clean. You must have seen when you go to other cities, other localities, where plastic waste is simply dumped on the roadside. Plastic waste is essentially lying on the road, on which the vehicles will simply keep on passing by and the plastic will keep on flying and go on hit, right? Let's say pillion riders, or let's say the cars, etc. So in that particular case, it simply means the data which is published by the government authorities is not accurate enough. What about, let's say, informal sector participants who will collect a lot of these waste from the households, will collect, or for example, let's say battery has plastic. Again, one of the components is plastic. A lot of times we simply sell it to somebody, kabadi wala in the market, is a participant of informal economy. Is this a data collected by the government? Again, there is no clarity regarding this. Okay, so all of these are the important issues associated with the estimates of the plastic data that is given, that is calculated in India. And that's the reason the writer says there will be a gross underestimation. Is everybody okay with this? There is a gross underestimation. And please don't ask me what is the problem if there is a plastic pollution in India. Please don't ask me what will happen if there is a plastic waste in India. Is hazardous. Very simple, it is hazardous. So, what should be done? What is the solution to this? Basically, the writer says there is a need to have better estimation. There is a need to have better processes in India. Let me explain to you this. There is a concept called as corporate social responsibility. Correct? There is a concept called as corporate social responsibility. In the same way, again, I'll come to CSR in just some time. Don't worry. In the same way, there is also a concept called as EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. What is the meaning of extended producer responsibility? Imagine I'm manufacturing a battery, either for a two wheeler or for a four wheeler or for a truck, etc. Now, this particular, right, let's say battery is purchased by the consumers or by companies, etc. I should set up a mechanism in such a way that even after using this battery, I should put in place a mechanism to collect the batteries back and recycle it. Very simple. I should collect it back and I should have a process of recycling all of this. The argument is one, the data collection methodology should be reviewed. There should be a better process of data collection. Second one is there should be extended producer responsibility will help us in recollecting, recycling all of this. And all the municipalities in India, all the local authorities in India should be connected in terms of, let's say, having recycling facilities, having, let's say, proper dump yards, etc. Done? So these are the recommendations which have been provided in this article associated with how to handle the waste management, especially the plastic waste management. And some of you will be looking, sir, there is a term called as a judiciary here. What is the role of the judiciary? In this year, there was an order issued by the Supreme Court of India in the context of tanneries in Tamil Nadu. Point number one, listen to me carefully. These particular industries are mainly located, again, I'm talking about tanneries here. These are mainly located in certain regions where sufficient industrialization is not there. And according to the Supreme Court of India's observation, these also pollute a lot. The tanneries also pollute a lot, especially the rivers or the lakes which are present in the vicinity of the tanneries. Lot of waste, industrial waste, hazardous waste is allowed to flow into the, let's say, rivers, lakes, canals, etc. Despite the government, center, state, in fact, having multiple policies against this, the implementation has not been very effective. As a result of this, when the tanneries will leak out or basically emit all of these hazardous waste, the soil fertility in the region would be affected. People who are drinking this water or using this water for other purposes are affected. Their health is affected. So, regarding this, the Supreme Court of India has issued an order in the context of the Tamil Nadu tanneries, where the Supreme Court has set up a committee, asked the committee to review whether the policies, the regulations, etc., are being implemented correctly or not, and report back to the Supreme Court of India. And not just this, the Supreme Court also has imposed a heavy penalties on these tanneries. The state government is supposed to collect this, utilize this money to provide relief to the affected population, also conduct, right, let's say, environmental protection measures in the vicinity of the tanneries. So essentially, the argument is, right, Supreme Court of India is taking these measures in order to protect the environment, also reclaim the environment. Done. So these are the two very important aspects which are discussed in the article here. So far, so good. Everybody's okay. Please do let me know in the chat section. Everybody's okay. Somebody is saying, "Sir, your voice is different today." Yes, my voice is different. And by the way, I'm taking Vicks inhaler. Don't say, "Sir, आप कुछ फूक रहे हो." No, I'm basically taking inhaler. I've got cold. That's the only reason. Okay, done. Let me go to the third article. As mentioning corporate social responsibility, I'll connect it here. Net zero and tree cover. Expanding tree cover is essential or is crucial. What are the important points here? Point number one, India has set up a target of net zero emissions. Correct? India has set up a target of net zero emissions by 2070. Now, in order to achieve these net zero emissions, the government is implementing multiple policies. But one such area where government needs to focus more, according to the writer here, is basically to promote afforestation. Again, afforestation will be a very narrow word. I will simply say afforestation plus planting trees. Planting trees. And some of you might be thinking, sir, what is the difference between afforestation, planting trees? Planting of the trees can be done within the forest. That will be called as afforestation, expanding the forest cover. Can be done outside the forest also. For example, how many of you heard of the term agroforestry? Please do let me know in the chat section. How many of you heard of the term agroforestry? Agroforestry is a practice where, in addition to cultivation of the crops, you'll also be planting trees. You'll be planting multiple types of trees through which you can get, let's say, wood, you can get medicinal plants, etc., etc. That practice is called as agroforestry. So, Government of India has been implementing multiple policies. For example, some of the policies mentioned in the article are: one, Green India Mission. Green India Mission, GIM. Please understand, the concept of a Green India Mission is essentially a part of National Action Plan on Climate Change, NAPCC. Under NAPCC, there are totally 8 components. There are 8 components. One of the component is Green India. In addition to Green India Mission, there is also corporate social responsibility. What is this corporate social responsibility connected to planting of the trees? Under CSI initiative, the private sector companies who will come under this will have to spend at least around 2% of the average profits generated in the last 3 years. One of the ways that the companies are trying to meet the target under the CSR is essentially by promoting plantation. Planting of the trees is being conducted under the concept of corporate social responsibility. Now, what is the need of this? Right? What is the need of all of this? The need is very simple. Have a look at the fourth point now. Point number one, the plants play a very important, what kind of role? One, they will absorb the carbon dioxide which is present in the air. At basic biology, they will absorb carbon dioxide which is present in the air. It will help us in controlling or reducing the emissions which are present in the atmosphere. Second, they will also help in protection of soil. in protection of soil. How so? Whenever you plant trees, right, let's say the flow of the water, let's say there is excess rainfall, the flow of the water, which will take away a lot of the nutrients from the soil, can be protected by having plantations, right? Let's say because of the trees, right, the soil is loosened, lot of aeration will take place, water can go up to certain depth because of this. So it will also help in protecting and improving the quality of the soil. And not to forget, please understand, the plantation is required. It will provide lot of other benefits such as providing timber which is used for economic activities, providing medicinal or medicines which is used in production of various medicines or the drugs in the market, etc. So these are some of the advantages which have been quoted in the context or basically to promote planting of the trees or promotion of forestation. But in the context of industrialization, understand this. The author or the writer is connecting the plantation with the industrialization. In terms of industrialization, also, you need to promote more and more plantation of the trees. How so? From 2026, European Union's CBAM. All of you heard of this? CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. From 2026, CBAM will come into force. And once the CBAM will come into force, lot of Indian exports will start attracting tariffs or the taxes when they basically enter into European Union market. And if you're wondering, sir, what would be the likely impact of CBAM? This data I've taken from economic survey. This is a data that I've taken from economic survey. Please have a look at this. Do not memorize the data, but sufficient to say lot of the industries in India would be affected with implementation of CBAM. Now, when the exports would attract these kind of, let's say, taxes when they land into European Union market, automatically exports from India will be affected. They will start losing competitiveness. Right? So, what is the argument here? Promote more and more tree coverage. Promote, right, more and more afforestation, plantation of the trees. But in this particular regard, the writer says there is one issue or one problem. What is the issue here? The issue that is quoted essentially says, in case of India, right now, we do not have, right? I hope you understand, robust carbon trading mechanism. Right now, we do not have a robust carbon trading policy in India. We should have this kind of a policy proposed by the government yet to be implemented. Have a robust carbon trading or let's say tracking and trading policy in the domestic market. So these are certain very important points which have been mentioned in the article. In addition to this, the government has already implemented multiple policies for plantation of the trees. More and more reforms at the state level, at the central level should be implemented. For example, promotion of more and more agroforestry. Done? Right. So these are important points. Before I go forward, let me ask you a very simple question. Okay. Let me see. According to you people, CBAM, will this be a tariff measure or a non-tariff measure? Let me know. According to you people, CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, is it a tariff policy or a non-tariff policy? Let me see what is your answer. Tariff or non-tariff? And thereby I'll understand how many of you are reading correctly. It's a non-tariff policy. Again, I have a document to prove that it is a non-tariff policy. Sir, what is the proof? Tell me the proof. Economic survey. Economic survey. This year's economic survey, very recently published by the government, essentially says this is a non-tariff policy. So please be very careful. And all these look very simple, but suddenly UPSC will ask you a question, you'll make a mistake there. Okay. So I've given a question for you to practice mains answer writing. For India to achieve the net zero emission target by 2070, it should be 2070. Afforestation and carbon sequestration will be key pillars. Elaborate the statement in 250. Okay, let me go forward. Next article associated with the Pegasus and national security. Understand the evolution here. Back in the year 2021, there was a investigative report which basically stated that multiple countries around the world, multiple countries around the world are using the multiple governments of countries around the world are using a spyware by the name of Pegasus, right? A spyware which has been developed by a firm in Israel by the name of NSO, and we are basically using this. Multiple governments around the world are using this, right, for multiple reasons. And following this particular investigative report, there is a large hue and cry created, including in India. In India, many of the people, journalists, right, let's say opposition leaders, etc., there was an allegation that their phones have been, right, let's say, infiltrated using Pegasus spyware by the government of. So these people went to Supreme Court of India. Simple. They approached Supreme Court of India and they basically said there is an allegation like this. We want the investigation to be done in an impartial manner, and we want to know whether the government is using this spyware to spy on the citizens. I hope you understand. Whether the government is using this spyware to spy on the citizens. Right? So this was the contention. So Supreme Court of India set up a committee, technical committee. And the technical committee submitted the report. And the report simply stated that one, the government administration did not provide any kind of a support to this technical committee set up by Supreme Court of India. And second, the report or the technical committee's report also mentioned that in some of the cases, that is, multiple phones were basically taken under the investigation. Some of the phones seem to be having the spyware, but conclusively, it cannot be said that it has been done by the government. So I hope you understand the importance of the report here. So Supreme Court of India basically took the report. It has not been made public. Essentially, it said government should consider improving, right? Let's say the national security issue here. Now come to 2025, the issue is being heard. Right? In 2025, the issue is being heard. The contention that has been raised by some of the, right, let's say the lawyers here or the advocates representing multiple parties is that they are asking the government so far has neither accepted nor denied that they have purchased the Pegasus spyware. The government has not has neither accepted nor rejected this argument. So we want to know whether the government has the spyware. Have they purchased this particular spyware? We want to know right from the government. But the argument of Supreme Court of India's justices, the justices basically have reacted to this and they're saying even if the government has a spyware, what is wrong with that? If the government has purchased a spyware, what is wrong with that particular decision of the government? The argument of the justice here is if they use the spyware to spy on the citizens. I hope you understand. If they use this Pegasus software to spy on the citizens, that is wrong. That will essentially create an imbalance between the issue of national security as well as the privacy of, right, let's say individual rights. The privacy rights. Right. So if the government will use the software or let's say spyware to keep an eye on, to investigate, to collect data regarding, let's say, certain people who are creating issues in the national security. Let's say these are terrorists, these are cooperating with the terrorists, etc. What is the issue in that particular case? Let them use it. But if they're using this, right, to let's say investigate, keep an eye or track, let's say the political opponents. Let's say, right, let's say a certain journalist who are opposed to the ideology of the government, etc. In that case, it will be a privacy issue. So right now, I hope you understand. Right now, the Supreme Court of India stated one, the government having a spyware is nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. How they use it, that will make a difference. Second one, those people who basically had a doubt that their phones have been, right, let's say, infected with the spyware, if they want, the Supreme Court of India will allow them to look at the report. because the report is not yet public. Supreme Court says this is an issue associated with national security. I don't want to make the report public wherein everybody, right, every man, human, women, etc., will start talking, right, will start talking about this particular report, will not make it public associated with national security. If somebody wants, let's say these particular people who have concern that their phones have been attacked with the spyware, if they want, they can raise a question and we will allow the respective authorities to answer to them whether, or we will allow them to look at the report whether their phones have been infected with the virus. But beyond this, nothing else will be made public. So these are the important points associated with this particular report, which covers an article regarding the Pegasus issue. Done. There was a student who was asking, what is Pegasus? My dear, Pegasus is the right spyware. Right, essentially that Pegasus spyware will, right, be used to infect your phone. It can use to activate your, right, let's say the camera without you knowing it, without you authorizing it. It can start sharing your information. It can read your messages, pass on the information to basically the authority which has used this to infect your mobile phone. Done? Okay, so these are certain important points. Next article, USA puts India back into IPR watch list. Important. What is the issue here? Point number one, United States Trade Representative, USTR, United States Trade Representative, annually will publish a report. This report is called as Special 301 report. Special 301, Special 301, 301, you read it whatever or however you want to. Special 301 report. And what is the importance of Special 301 report? It will basically study, it will provide information regarding how intellectual property rights are being protected in other countries. Simple. How IPRs are being protected in other countries. What do you mean by this? There are various types of intellectual property rights, such as patents, copyrights, a trademark, etc. And the respective company or anybody who has applied for this is given the protection by allowing only them to use these for certain period of time. For example, today, can I can I basically manufacture a T-shirt with logo of Nike on this? Can I produce a T-shirt sitting in my home, right, having a logo of Adidas on this? In fact, which was done during World Cup finals or World Cup very recently held in India. Argument is very simple. There are protections provided for these, let's say, companies, right, or people who have invested time, who have invested money to create something using their mind. That's the reason this is called as an intellectual property. So argument is, right, what has been the performance of other countries. Now let's not worry about other countries. Let's look at India. According to this particular special 301 report, India's intellectual property right protection is not satisfactory. The protection that is provided by the Indian government through these kind of, let's say, intellectual property rights in India is not at all satisfactory. How so? On what basis? Right? Are they saying this in the context of India? Some of you will get offended. Sir, how dare they point this out to us, etc., etc. If you want to know in detail, you can go to the website of USTR and download this particular report and read it. It is a very small report of 92 pages, including the title cover and the last page. Small report of 92 pages. Now, some of you will say, great. Already I'm struggling with, let's say, polity book, economy book. You want me to read 92 pages also? Not required. I will tell you the important points. Listen to me carefully. Their argument is, one, the Intellectual Property Act in India, the IP Act in India, essentially has very vague words. It has very vague words, vague terminologies have been utilized. And when you have very vague words, right, in the provisions, interpretation will also change. With change in the interpretation, now there is confusion. One company will read this provision in a certain way, another company will read it in a different way. So confusion is getting created. Second, the process of allocating intellectual properties in India is a very lengthy process. Very lengthy process. That is, you need to submit data from one authority to another authority. The right, let's say applications will keep on shifting or moving like this. So the amount of data that the companies are supposed to submit, the kind of paperwork that is involved, and the time that is consumed in allocation of this particular patent, it's a very, very lengthy process, time consuming. Third concern which has been raised by them is a company in USA will produce, let's say, a pharmaceutical product or a machinery. And a lot of these pharmaceutical products, machines, etc., will have copyrights, will have patents on it, right? Will have trademarks on it, etc. When these products are imported into India, sorry, when these products are imported into India, government of India imposes very high customs. It imposes very, very high customs. And this creates a problem because let's say a pharmaceutical company in USA has invested money. They have done a lot of R&D. Now they want to export this product to India. Government of India says, you want to enter into India, I will impose very high customs. That is taxes. That is again going to hurt the American companies or the foreign companies. And not to forget, lot of issues in terms of protection in India. Let's say for right, for example, let's say movies, the copyright issue. Right? Let's say an American movie, American produced movie, right? That will be basically be available on the internet in India, essentially violating the copyright law. The music produced by American composers is available in India free of cost, right? Violating the Copyright Act. And I'm pretty sure, right? I'm pretty sure about this. Right now, you people, again, when I say you, do not take it personally. Don't take it personally. A lot of you who have got Android phones would have downloaded this music, would have downloaded this particular movie. And whether you like economics or not, in this case, you will apply economics. You will become a perfect economist. How? Sir, who will go to theater, right? Transportation. I want to reduce petrol consumption. Who will pay, right? Let's say 200 rupees for a movie. I don't want to pay. 200 rupees I can get, right? Let's say a book for UPSC exam. Who will pay, right? Let's say 200 rupees for a bucket of popcorn and 300 rupees for samosa. Not healthy, you know. I'm very conscious. I want to control my calorie consumption, etc., etc. These are the kind of arguments which will provide when you talk about, let's say, piracy in India. But the argument of the USA government is very simple. Right here, in case of India, protection that is provided is very ambiguous, right? Cumbersome process, right? Sufficient protection is not being provided, etc. And that is the precise reason why government of USA, that is the USTR report this year, has essentially brought India back into IPR watch list. And if you're wondering, right, sir, will anything happen because of this? Please understand, immediately nothing will happen. What they might try to do is the government of USA might use this as a tactic to negotiate better with India. And they will use this as a tactic to get more concessions from India. They'll try to arm twist government of India into implementing multiple policies, right, in order to protect the intellectual property rights of the American company. And so these are certain very important points associated with USA putting India back into the IPR watch list. MCQ 101. Consider the following statements regarding Special 301 report. It is published by WTO. Once a country is placed in the priority watch list, the trade with the country is automatically stopped. It should be very easy now. Do let me know what is the answer to this. Right? If not, don't worry. I'll answer in some time. Next article, changes in monsoon affect marine productivity in Bay of Bengal. Simple point, okay? Just factual information here. Listen to me carefully. Whenever you have excess monsoon or lower monsoon, simple. Whenever you have excess monsoon or lower monsoon, this will have an impact on fishing activity in the Bay of Bengal. And I can see some of you are giving very nice answer to the question that I've given earlier. Somebody says A, somebody says D, right? So do let me know what is the right answer. But more importantly, listen to me now. If there is a excess rainfall or lower rainfall, that is monsoon by the way, it will have a huge impact on the fishing activities which are conducted in the Bay of Bengal. And why is this important? Bay of Bengal, in terms of, let's say, covering the ocean, it generally accounts for around 1% of the total ocean coverage. But it accounts for around 8% of the fishing activity. The oceans, around 8% of the total fishing activity is accounted by the Bay of Bengal. And not to forget, there are multiple states along the coastline in India. Right? There are multiple states along the coastline in India. For example, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh for that matter, or Odisha, West Bengal. All these particular states, lot of people who are residing in the coastline depend on the sea to get access to fish. And those who will basically say, sir, non-veg, early morning, don't talk about non-veg. I'll replace fish with protein source. At least be happy now. Right? Lot of this population, right, not just in the coastal region, but also other parts of India as well as right, the rest of the world, they use this as a source of protein. And this will also add to economic activity. Add to lot of economic activity in terms of, let's say, right, the fishing community, in terms of, let's say, right, the companies which will manufacture boats, which will manufacture other products which are used, tools which are used by the fishers in the sea, etc. So economic activity is associated with this, right? And the livelihoods are associated with this, jobs are associated with this, and the consumption of food is also associated. But what is the point that making in this particular article? They are saying if there is a excess monsoon, the mixing, right, that is basically fresh water with the other parts of the sea, the layers of the water in the sea or oceans, the mixing doesn't happen appropriately. If there is a lower rainfall, problem. If there is an excess monsoon, it is a problem. And all of this is connected to these kind of economic activity. And this is essentially what the study which has been conducted is showing in the article. Done? Okay. Right. So these are certain important points. Next article. India must oppose fresh IMF assistance to Pakistan, says representative of Congress. Now, don't get into the political argument here. For you, political argument is not important. What are the important points? Please make a note of this. There is something mentioned associated with the IMF. UPSC has the tendency of asking a question on IMF in the prelims. What is the term mentioned in the context of IMF in the article? There is a term called as resilience and sustainability facility. Resilience and sustainability facility. Please make a note of this. What is the importance of this? All of you, please listen to me very carefully now. The member countries of IMF, International Monetary Fund, okay? The member countries of IMF can approach IMF, borrow from IMF. Now, when they take a loan, when they take a loan, the loans can be concessional in nature. The loans can be concessional in nature, and the loans can be non-concessional also. And those who are wondering and are about to type now, sir, what do you mean by concessional? My dear, when you take a loan from IMF, does IMF charge a rate of interest or provides this loan at 0%? That is the difference between non-concessional and concessional respectively. So loans can be concessional as well as non-concessional. And the important tools to remember is there is right one type of a account essentially called as general resources account. Remember all of this. General resources account under which multiple tools are used by IMF different types of loans are given by IMF, but please understand, general resources account, the rate of interest is market driven. Rate of interest is market driven. That is, the IMF will give a loan and charge a rate of. There is also one more type of account associated with the IMF lending, that is poverty reduction and growth trust. Poverty reduction and growth trust. In case of poverty reduction and growth trust, different types of loans are given by IMF, but here the rate of interest applicable right now is 0%. Right? Rate of interest applicable is 0%. So is Pakistan taking a loan right now, which is being discussed in the article, under GRA or under PRGT? Answer is neither of them. They are approaching IMF. They want to take a loan from IMF to the extent of $1.3 billion under a third type of trust called as Resilience and Sustainability Facility. Is it okay? Resilience and Sustainability Facility, or else they will also use the term Resilience and Sustainability Trust, under which loans are given for low income countries, or middle income countries, and here rate of interest is applicable. IMF will charge a rate of interest. Done? So these are certain important points. Beyond this, do not worry about rest of the article which is given here. For UPSC, that is not important. Who is saying what? Not relevant. What will the what will the central government do? Will they oppose it, etc.? Right? Whether they do that or not, don't worry about it. And moreover, some of you might be thinking, can Indian government oppose a loan which is supposed to be given by IMF to a country? Can oppose? I hope you understand. They can oppose. But will this actually lead to IMF cancelling the loan to Pakistan? Answer is no. I hope you understand. Reason being, listen to me very carefully. It is just a symbolic gesture. It is a symbolic gesture. Reason being, under IMF, the decision making authority regarding the loans I'm talking, by the way, the decision making authority is essentially board of directors. Board of directors. In case of the IMF, the board of directors take a decision whether the loan should be given, not given, what conditions should be imposed, etc., etc. And all of this is essentially based on the report that is given by the negotiators to the board of directors. So the board of directors is supposed to meet very soon, and they're supposed to take a call whether to give this kind of a loan to Pakistan or not. It is the decision of board of directors, not, right, let's say, the Indian government, whether the loan should be given or not. And moreover, if you're wondering, where does India fit into all of this? Where does India fit? India fits into basically the representation of a member of a country under IMF. But much more importantly, please understand, the board of directors, please understand, generally decide whether to provide a loan or not based on a simple majority of 50. And individual countries, I hope you understand, in the board of directors, representation of individual countries is not there. That is, what do I mean by individual countries here? Under WTO, it's a dispute settlement body. Individual countries are members, but in board of directors, the countries are clubbed. Countries are grouped. Right? So India is a part of a group which is represented in the board of. Everybody is okay. These are technical concepts. So be aware of all of this. Okay. Let me go to the next article. Insufficient support for deep tech startups in India. A study has been published which simply says the support to deep tech companies in India, deep tech startups in India is not sufficient. But what are the points you need to understand? I'll just connect it to what was discussed earlier as well. Very recently, Mr. Piyush Goyal, minister by the way, Mr. Piyush Goyal basically criticized the startup founders in India, the kind of startups which have been set up. the kind of activity they are doing, the kind of investment they are doing, there was a criticism. So I hope you understand this. There is a type of a startup which we need to promote called as a deep tech. And those who are wondering, sir, deep tech, does it or is it associated with oceans? Is it right associated with right? Let's say the seas, etc. Answer is no. And I know some of you are saying, sir has discussed that. I know. I also heard this. This was in detail discussed by Abhishek sir. I know that, but I'll not enter into what was discussed by Abhishek sir. Let me give you basic points here. Deep tech essentially, please understand this. These are the types of technologies where lot of R&D is done. Lot of research and development is done. And these kind of a deep techs have a bigger impact, have a larger impact. They generally revolutionize. I hope you understand. They generally revolutionize how the technology will be used. For example, robotics. It is an example of deep tech. And for example, AI, artificial intelligence, is an example of deep tech. For example, semiconductors. Right? For example, semiconductors. These are the examples of deep tech, by the way. Now, what is a connection? What you should understand, in addition to what Abhishek sir has discussed, which I hope all of you remember, what you need to remember, in case of India, support to deep tech is not sufficient. We do not have sufficient support to the deep tech. Some of you will basically say, right, sir, what do you mean by support here? And Bahadur Alam says, sir, you are a very good actor. I just hope Mr. Sanjay Leela Bansali or even Mr. Rajmouli reads this. Right? Okay. What do I mean by, right? Let's say support is not sufficient here. The meaning is either you want to promote deep techs, you need assistance from private sector. Correct? You need assistance from the private sector. And when I say assistance, assistance could be in the form of expertise. Assistance could be in the form of funding. Assistance could be in the form of a joint venture. And you also need assistance from the government. So, what do you mean by assistance from the government? Essentially, government setting up a fund which will provide assistance, financial funding for only deep tech startups. Government announcing joint ventures, let's say, with government agencies, etc. So, I hope you understand. You require assistance from the private sector as well as the government. What is the issue in the context of India? Please understand, we have, right, we do not have sufficient support from either of them. Right? We do not have sufficient support from either of them. Karu, how can you say government doesn't support deep techs? My dear, I'll give you an example. South Korea, case of a country, small country such as South Korea, they have a funding, they have a scheme only for deep techs. They have a policy, they have an incubator only for the deep techs. Does India have an incubator only targeting deep techs? Does government of India have a policy targeting only the deep techs? Answer is no, by the way. And again, just to be very clear here, just to be very precise, it doesn't mean that government is not doing anything here. In fact, last year there was a discussion. It was expected that in the interim budget or after the elections, when the budget was announced in July 2024, it was expected government would come out with a separate policy for the deep techs. That has not been done. The argument is we have a policy for startups and we have clubbed the deep tech into startups. We need to have a separate policy targeting them, just like Korea has. And what about the private sector? The private sector also doesn't provide sufficient support. Why? When a private sector investor can get faster returns by investing in a company such as, let's say, Swiggy, Zepto, etc., why will they invest in deep tech companies? And mind you, right, mind you, the deep tech companies or the startups do not generate revenue immediately. They do not generate revenue immediately. They require long time period to develop a product and then essentially incorporate this particular product or a technology into different segments. And that is the precise reason the private sector in terms of investment, they are not interested in this. That is the reason they will end up investing in other companies, right, such as Zepto, Swiggy, etc., which was actually criticized by the minister in the Mahakumbh. That is a startup Mahakumbh. Done. So some of you will basically say then, sir, give me solution. Don't simply tell the problem and go away. Tell me solution. What should be the solution? Solution is simple. One, the government should implement a policy. Government should implement a policy targeting only the deep tech startups. Have a policy. Have incubators targeting deep techs. Provide incentives. Provide incentives. Many countries do that. Provide incentives when the deep techs will develop, let's say, a proof of concept. Because a proof of concept is a precursor. The product is not ready. Technology is not ready. There is a concept which they are putting forward which says it is workable, it is a solution, it is right, let's say it can be produced in a larger scale, etc. So argument is provide a policy, provide incentives, and most importantly, government should also promote patient capital. Government should promote patient capital investment in the deep tech. Now, some of you will say, sir, what do you mean by patient here? Does patient, right, mean you, who is also a patient, down with cold fever, etc.? Does patient mean that? Answer is no. Patient capital means the investors who have invested money are willing to wait for a longer time period. Very simple, right? The investors are willing to wait for a longer time period. You do not want to invest today, right, and demanding returns tomorrow. That's not patient capital. There are a lot of investors in the market who are referred to as a patient capital because essentially these are willing to invest, wait for right longer period and get the return. So these are the recommendations you can provide as a solution to the deep tech startups in India. One article I've taken from Indian Express because I felt important article, important in the sense because of let's say what is happening in Maharashtra, because of what is happening right in NCRTs, etc. I know those who are appearing for civil service examination will read a lot about Chava. They will basically read a lot about Chava. They will read about Chhatrapati, Shivaji, Chhatrapati, this, that, etc., etc. What UPSC might do is they will throw a googly, ask you about, right, let's say something else associated with Marathas itself, but something else. So this was the article which was published in today's Indian Express. Please have a look at it. Okay, please have a look at this. There was a sword which was put on, let's say, auctioning in Britain. And this is the sword of Raghuji Bhosle I, who basically existed during the Maratha time period, who became a king during the Maratha time period. And very well known because of his exploits, an expert in warfare, etc. Have a look at this. I said king, Maratha general. Correct it? Maratha general under Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj. He was honored with the title Sena Sahib Subha by the same king. The sword is important. Sword is important. Reason being, there are certain writings on the sword. Right? There are writings on the sword. And second, this is being auctioned or this has been purchased by the government of Maharashtra. And why the sword has importance here? In this particular time period, generally you will not see the swords which are manufactured by other companies and which will have embellishments, which will have writings on who is using it, who has been gifted this, etc. But it is said this particular sword, which has been manufactured in the Firangi style, has embellishments, has the words of this particular general written on this. That is one point. Second point, there is also a war. Please remember this. 1817 Battle of Sitabuldi. Okay, this is important. Please make a note of this. It is said that after right this general lost the war, the Britishers basically invaded and looted lot of let's say the assets which were present in this particular kingdom. And right when this particular defeat happened, and one of the loots that they took away to Britain is said to be this particular sword. So these are the important points, right? Don't read too much about SWOT. The battle, important. Name of the general, important. Who gave the title? Please make a note of. Okay. Last article, just an update. After that, I'll take up your questions. The state of Jammu and Kashmir, after the attack in Pahalgam, now the government there has conducted the security audit. After conducting the security audit, a majority of them, more than 40 tourist spots in Jammu and Kashmir now has been put off the limits. That is essentially, although these are part of right like tourist destinations, these essentially have been cut off from the access to tourist right now. The argument of the government is very simple. They're conducting security audit. We are not happy with right the kind of security being provided here. We will review the security measures later, and once all of this is sorted out, we will open the tourist destinations. So that is around 49 have been put off the list of access to the tourist here. Okay. So these are certain important points in this article. Now, before I take up your questions, the key answers. MCQ 100, both are published by MOSPI. Yes. Both have the same base year of 2011 and 12. Right now, the answer is yes. I'm saying right now because in some time, maybe this year or next year, you'll come across the articles which say the base year of both IIP and GDP has been changed. So please be very careful. Okay. Consider the following statements regarding Special 301 report. It is published by WTO. No, it is published by the government of USA. That is specifically United States Trade Representative. Once a country is placed in the priority watch list, the trade with that country is automatically stopped. No, it doesn't stop the trade. Essentially, they will try to ask the country or respective country which is listed to implement certain policies, try to take certain concessions from these particular countries. Okay. So right option is option D. None of the above are correct. Now, before I start taking questions, if you want to get the access to this particular PPT with annotations, this will be uploaded in some time in my Telegram channel. And this is right essentially the link to my Telegram channel. And before I close, tomorrow, starting 6 p.m., I'll be having a marathon session where I'll be discussing important current affairs from Indian economy, essentially covering the June to April 2025. Please join the session live. Okay, done. So now, if you have any questions, please do let me know. uh, Narayan, sir, MCQ question on the UPC English channel are stopped? No, I don't think so. Okay. YRS, sir, increase the intake of vitamin C. Done. I'll do that. SC judge remarks why mind jumps to extreme conclusion. Okay. Any questions? Please do let me know. Board of Directors, Lalita Prasad Yadav, Board of Directors job. Please understand, under IMF, the highest decision making body is Board of Governors, BOG, Board of Governors. But the Board of Governors, where we have representation of Finance Minister as well as the RBI Governor, it cannot meet on day to day basis. It cannot meet on day to day basis. So, what they do is the day to day activities of IMF are allocated by the Board of Governors to Board of Directors, BOD, Board of Directors. So day-to-day activities essentially are taken. For example, let's say whether to provide loans or not, assessing the policies of multiple countries, publishing a report, etc. All of this is done by Board of Directors. Okay. uh, Sir, member countries of IMF all are part of Board of Directors. Answer is yes, but please understand, in WTO, World Trade Organization, let's say General Council, every member country is individually represented. Is it okay? Every member country is individually represented. Mamta Sheikh, I'm answering your question. Whereas in Board of Directors, the member countries are grouped. These member countries are right basically put into groups like this. And these groups will have representation in the Board of Directors. That's a difference. Okay. Any other question? Lakshmi, sir, is USA going to keep tariff on India? My dear, I don't know the answer to that question. You'll have to wait and see. Because what will the government of USA do? Or to be very specific, what will the president of USA do? I don't know. And I'm pretty sure he also doesn't know because he keeps on swinging from one extreme to another extreme in terms of policy making. Rahul Gudha, one state, one RRB. My dear, the logic is very simple. Back in 1970s, based on the recommendations of Narsimham Committee or Narsimham Panel, working group to be very precise, we introduced the concept of RRBs, Regional Rural Banks. What was the logic? Essentially, we will set up these banks and the operations of the banks will be limited to one or two districts. But over a period of time, the RRBs have been incurring losses. Lot of loans given have become NPAs, etc. And that is a precise reason the government of India in the last 2 decades, essentially after 2000, implemented a policy of consolidation where multiple RRBs would be clubbed, merged into single RRBs. If not operational, we will simply shut it down, etc. So consolidation has been done. Now the government of India simply says in one state there is going to be only one RRB. Simple. In one state, we will essentially have one RRB. That policy is called as one state, one RRB. Okay. Last question. Kirti, sir, once again, please tell why government and private are not supporting deep techs. My dear, I'm not saying government is not supporting deep tech. I'm saying we have a startup policy, but we need to have a separate policy targeting only the deep tech. That is the point. Private sector, the support is not going into a lot of these deep techs. Reason being, you need to invest. You need to invest and wait for a longer time period, and then you will get returns. Because the deep tech, the development, research and development, please understand this takes on very long time period for them to develop this technology. So you need to wait. You need to then expect returns from this. Private sector investors do not have so much of patience. And that is the reason if you compare to China, in China, there are more than 6,000 deep tech companies. Understand this, more than 6,000 deep tech companies, which have essentially raised more than $100 billion as of now in terms of funding. They've raised a huge amount of money. India has, let's say, just over thousand deep tech companies, and they're also trying very difficult or trying, but finding it very difficult to raise funding from the private sector. Okay, done. Done then. So, Narayan, you are igniting me to watch this movie now. Neetu Gupta, my dear, if you're appearing UPSC prelims, forget about the movie references that I make in the class. Forget about it. Focus on UPSC prelims. If you don't focus and keep on watching movies after prelims, your movie will run in your own home. Okay? So, done then. So, that's it from my side. Just to reiterate, if you like this initiative, do hit the like button. If you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Thank you. Have a great day. See you next time.